Okay, so I have Hamlet Act 4, and I'll be talking about and analyzing some of the important lines from the act. This one is Claudius's line. He says, "O heavy deed, had been so with us had we been there. His liberty is full of threats to all, to yourself, to us, to everyone. Alas, how shall this bloody deed be answered? It will be laid to us whose providence should have kept short, restrained and out of haunt, this mad young man. But so much was our love, we would not understand what was most fit. But like the owner of a foul disease, to keep it from divulging, let it feed even on the pith of life. Where is he gone?" So Claudius is talking about how he's blaming himself for not restraining Hamlet before he killed Polonius, and how he wished he could go back and do things different, and he thinks that he's going to be blamed for Hamlet's actions. So this one's Hamlet's line. It says, "Not where he eats, but where he is eaten. A certain convocation of politic worms are eaten at him. Your worm is your only emperor for diet. We fat all creatures else to fat us, and we fat ourselves for maggots. Your fat king and your lean beggar is but variable service, 2 dishes but 1 table." That's the end. So in this one, Claudius and Hamlet are talking about where Polonius' body is, and Hamlet's referring to the diet of worms, which used to be put on by the Holy Roman Emperor, and he's being real witty and making fun of his stepdad and the king for asking such simple questions. Okay, so this one's also from Hamlet, and it's when he's talking to one of Fortinbras's captains from his army, and it says, "How all occasions do inform against me and spur my dull revenge. What is a man if his chief good and market of his time be but to sleep and feed, a beast no more? Sure, he that made us with such large discourse, looking before and after, gave us not that capacity and godlike reason to fuss in us unused. Now, whether it be bestial oblivion or some craven scruple of thinking too precisely on the event, a thought which quartered hath no part in wisdom and ever 3 parts coward, I do not know, why yet I live to say this thing's to do." So Hamlet's talking about how the soldiers in this army are not using their full human potential, and they're just going out and fighting like animals, and he thinks that the human mind can do more, and that they should use what they have to the full potential. Okay, so the next important line comes from Gertrude. When she and Ophelia are about to talk, she says that she doesn't want to talk to her, but she eventually does, and the lines are, "To sick my soul, each toy seems prologue to some great amiss. So full of artless, jealous is guilt, it spills itself in fearing to be split." So here she's talking about how she feels partly responsible for how Ophelia is reacting to her father's death and how she hasn't been there for her. And at the same time, she's not willing to take any responsibility because she has a lot of other stuff to deal with. So this important line is from Laertes, and he's talking to Ophelia, and he feels that she's kind of lost it since her father's death. And the lines are, "O heat up, dry up my brains, tears 7 times salt, burn out the sense and virtue of mine eye. By heaven thy madness shall be paid by weight, till our scale turn the beam, O rose of May, dear maid, kind sister, sweet Ophelia. Oh heavens, isn't it possible a young maid's wit should be as mortal as an old man's life? Nature is fine in love, and where 'tis fine it sends some precious instant of itself after the thing it loves." So he's saying that when old Hamlet died, Ophelia's mind went with him, and she is proving her loyalty to her dad while also has lost her sanity and is now acting strange and singing all the time, and he's really worried about her. So in this scene, Claudius is talking to Laertes, and he says, "Oh, for 2 special reasons, which may to you perhaps seem much uninstilled, but yet to me they are strong. The queen, his mother, lives almost by his looks, and for myself, my virtue or my plague, be it either which, she's so conjective to my life and soul, that as the star moves but not in his sphere, I could not buy by her. The other motive, why to a public count I might not go, is the great love the general gender bear him, who, dipping all his faults in their affection, would, like the spring that turneth wood to stone, convert his gyves to graces, so that my arrows, too slightly timbered for so loud a wind, would have reverted to my bow again, without where I'd aimed them." So basically, Laertes and Claudius are talking about how they can get rid of Hamlet. They're being very vengeful, and Claudius is talking about how his mom is very she cares about him a lot, and that's why he has to figure out a way to kill him without being too obvious. And he knows that the public loves Hamlet, so he can't put him on trial. And that's when the idea to have the duel comes up, and Laertes quickly joins in because he wants to have revenge for his father's death. So in this part of the act, Laertes and Claudius are together, and they receive a letter that's actually addressed to Gertrude, but they open it anyway, and Claudius reads it, and in it Hamlet says that he's returning to Denmark, and they are both worried that he's going to come over and take the throne and be the new ruler. Laertes says, "I'm lost in it, my lord, but let him come. It warms the very sickness in my heart that I shall live and tell him to his teeth, thus didst thou." So Laertes wants to have the opportunity to confront Hamlet and tell him that he's brought a world of hurt on his own country, and Claudius is not so enthusiastic because he knows that Hamlet is coming back for revenge and does want to take over the country. So in this line, Claudius says, "Not that I think you did not love your father, but that I know love is begun by time, and that I see in passages of proof, time qualifies the spark and fire of it. There lives within the very flame of love a kind of wick or snuff that will be abated, and nothing is at like goodness still, for goodness, growing to a pleurisy, dies in his own too much, that we should do what we would, for this wood changes and hath abatements and delays as many as there are tongues, or hands, or accidents. And then this should is like a spendthrift sigh that hurts by easing. But to the quick of thy ulcer, Hamlet comes back. What would you undertake to show yourself indeed your father's son more than in words?" So here Claudius is thinking about what he would do if Hamlet does come back, and this is where they think of the duel, where they know that Hamlet will be eager to jump into the ring with Laertes, and they hatch the plan to put poison on the sword, and even if Laertes does not get a chance to cut Hamlet with the poison sword, that he will drink of a celebratory victorious drink after, and therefore will die from the poison in that drink. So this line comes right after Laertes learns of Ophelia's drowning in the river, and he says, "Too much of water hast thou, poor Ophelia, and therefore I forbid my tears. But yet is our trick. Nature her custom holds, let shame say what it will. When these are gone, the woman will be out. Adieu, my lord. I have a speech of fire that fain would blaze, but that this folly doubts it." So Claudius had just calmed Laertes down, and Laertes is now saying that he wants to leave, and Claudius is worrying that he's going to go do something that he's going to regret because he is sad that his sister is just drowned in the river. Okay, so now we're going to look at the characterizations of the important characters from this act. The first is obviously Hamlet, who his characterization is normally indirect. He's no longer seen as a hero due to his killing of Polonius. Before that, he was seen as one of the more moral characters, and his stepdad and king has now planned to send him to England and have him executed there. And little does he know about that, so he's excited to move there. And he also uses his irony and wit when he's asked about where he buried Polonius' body. And this shows that he's still the same guy even after he's committed the murder. He's still not qualified hero, and Claudius sees him in the country as a threat to the throne because he knows that at any time the public may gather behind him, and therefore he would have enough power to take over the country. He still does not succeed in his revenge on the new king, and that's why later he comes back and wants to take over. The next character on our list is Claudius, who's also indirectly characterized. He's a selfish king who wants to do whatever he needs to stay in power and keep the throne, and he'll even resort to killing Hamlet. Today he's seen as a typical manipulative politician, that goes to great measures to get what he wants. There are a couple similarities between Claudius and Hamlet. Hamlet didn't murder out of jealousy, and it wasn't premeditated, but Claudius wanted to do what he needed to in order to stay in power. He's always working to strengthen his power, and Denmark is only seen as healthy as its ruler, and during this time it's not healthy at all because he cannot keep the country going straight. It's in chaos. Gertrude is next, and she's directly characterized. She was loyal to Hamlet early on in the play, but she does betray him by telling Claudius about him murdering Polonius. Claudius and her are close, and she really does love Claudius, even though she doesn't show it all the time. And Claudius does really love her, even though they got remarried so fast after old Hamlet's death, and it was somewhat controversial. Eventually, she only sides with Claudius and does not stand up for her own son, and she goes along with the plan to have Hamlet killed in England, which old Gertrude early on would not have done because her and Hamlet were very close, and she wanted to do whatever it took to protect him. And she does convince Claudius with her speech to send Hamlet to England and have him killed, so it will be easier for them here in Denmark to have better lives and less drama. So Ophelia's next. She's directly characterized. She kind of lost it after old Hamlet's death and Polonius' death. She has gone slightly insane, and everyone can tell. She leans on those around her, including Polonius, so when he dies, she's even more distraught. There is questions whether Hamlet and her relationship was sexual. She had a lot of underlying themes in her speech, and she never denied having strong sexual desires and needs, and Hamlet knew this, and they may or may not have been intimate together, but be that as it may, she is drowned in the river, or she drowns herself in the river after Polonius dies, and she's really just distraught about how her life how the men in her life have let her down and disappeared. Horatio is one of the important characters. He's not as big as Hamlet, obviously, but so he's indirectly characterized. He's Hamlet's best friend, and they have been friends for a long time, but he does set up Hamlet's trip to England, and he talks to the sailors about getting them there okay, and he attempts to understand Ophelia's pain. They talk, and he realizes that she has gone through a lot, and he sees that she is really kind of losing it and is starting to go insane. Okay, so Laertes, he's one of the more important characters. He's directly characterized. He is one of the good guys. Generally, he always works for justice and morality, but he is fairly vengeful. He says he would kill Hamlet in church, slit his throat in order to avenge his father, which is probably true. And that's fairly drastic because church is such a holy place. And then he and Claudius come up with the idea to duel with Hamlet. Laertes and Hamlet duel and have the poison on the sword, so even the slightest cut would kill him. And but he is working to avenge his father's death, and he thinks that everyone should pay for their actions and there should be consequences for the wrong things that people do.